for joining us today on the Soaking Positive podcast. I really do appreciate you coming on a little bit short notice. But I really want to kind of deep dive with you, especially today, because Michael told me about a program that you run, which is Project X-Guard, which is based out of Toronto. And I wanted to learn a lot more about that. I want you to talk about it. I want to hear the stories, the origins, and I'm going to let the reins over to you. And I just want to let you talk.
Okay, so Project X-Guard is a non-for-profit that teaches at-risk youth life skills through the martial art of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And the reason it came about was because I was an at-risk youth, right? And I decided that, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu had saved my life. So going back, I grew up in the Regent Park neighborhood of Toronto. It was a multicultural neighborhood, very rough and tough, right? I grew up in government housing. And I grew up, sometimes my father was there, sometimes my father wasn't there. When he was usually there, he, was drunk and beat the crap out of my mother. And, this is the kind of environment I grew up in. Then we moved to a better neighborhood, still government housing, but it was, surrounded by, lots of Italians, right? So I was probably one of, 5 minorities, in that neighborhood and in that school, actually. And every day I would get bullied, and the only thing I knew was to fight back. So every day I'm in the principal's office, and, because all I knew was if they called me a spick, right, I would take him down and I'd get into a fight. Fast forward to high school, I started drinking, getting into drugs, weed. After high school, I started with cocaine, and that path was like 10, 11 years, right? Drinking every weekend, cocaine every weekend. And I had been called, I think the word is now, I see it, that I was called to this martial arts. It was actually a Muay Thai studio, right? I went in one time, and, they didn't have a program for my kids. So, I didn't sign up, and obviously I didn't sign up, and I went, something called me back, right? And I started with Muay Thai, and, one day they brought in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and that was December 2010 was the day that
Nice.
was the month I started Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
What sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No problem.
What was the school that you started Muay Thai at, and then what was your first jiu-jitsu instructor, and who did they bring in?
So it was Lana Muay Thai.
Okay.
Right, in the Western Road in Finch area of North York. And then we were under Henzo Gracie, right? We were basically under Pac Hooligan.
Okay.
We were under Pac Hooligan, and our first instructor, man, I forget his name. I'm very bad with names, but it was fantastic. Like, the thing is, every day I'm getting beat up, right? I was dying and getting beat up, but something just kept on calling me back, right? And so when I started, it was like basically the most difficult thing I had ever done. But for some reason, I wanted to learn more. I started there. I did my first tournament, and which was an in-house, right? And the semifinals, which was, I think, my first fight, it took me like an hour and a half to recuperate. So lucky there was Muay Thai fights in between, right? But it was just all will. It was all will. But something inside of me just kept me going, right? I didn't realize what it was. Then eventually we left the area, moved to Scarborough, and I joined Gringos. And really that's what took me to the next level. That's what started me in thinking, in a positive manner. So, you are who you hang around with, right? Not that the other place was a bad place. It's just that they weren't really a competition school, this school it's a competition school. So I get in there. My other school, you had like, even though I had won my tournament, right, I wasn't allowed to compete in tournaments, right? I had won the in-house, but I had to ask permission. They were just letting the instructors compete at the tournaments. I get to Gringos 1 month, like I remember the first tournament I see posted up, it was Ascension. And I asked Gringo, can I compete at that? I think I hadn't been there a week, but he knew I had been training for a year. So he's like, yeah, man, go for it, right? So, his culture, the way he thinks, actually meshed well with me, right? And learning to be a competitor is what I think that really took me to the next level in terms of my life skills. Because there's a saying, like, sometimes you don't know just because you don't know, right? I didn't know a better way of nutrition, right? I didn't know a better way of having a positive mindset. I didn't know the regimen of a fighter, right? Training and what happened was eventually, and it didn't happen right away, but what happened was, eventually I started saying, do I want to go get drunk and high, or do I want to train tomorrow, right? And the answer was simple. I want to train tomorrow. If I go get drunk and high, I'm going to be hungover. There's no way I'm going to be able to drink, and I mean to train and yeah, because it's hard, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was, I think that we did a couple of years of this, and then I really decided to go for it, and I started. I went to my first World Masters, which was at Blue Belt, right? And that was like 2016. So this is about the same time when I'm starting a Project X-Guard. Project X-Guard as a non-for-profit, like registered, has been around for 2 years or so, as a group that was getting together, right? We have been around maybe double that time, right? So maybe 4 years, right? So around that time, I started training for World Masters. I usually competed at like my first tournament, I think I was medium, right? Like I was medium, and I decided to go down to light. So I went down to lightweight. I finally put all my efforts into and focus into trying to be a world champion, right? And with the help of Gringo and all my teammates there, I was successful, and I was able to win my first tournament, right? So coming away from that, I decided that I want to give back, right? Because I had been this person that had suffered and seen suffering, right, through my environment, and I decided that, look, you know what, jiu-jitsu really, the saying, jiu-jitsu saved my life, right? So I am case in point that it has not only saved my life, it really saved my family's life, right? We were in a horrible spot, and I went up to Gringo, and what happened was I used to be associate producers of several documentaries, right? So I said, something said to me, like, listen, I don't want to do that anymore. Now I have extra income that I want to do something. I read Jiu-Jitsu magazine,
Yeah.
so, which is like only online now, but I was reading it, and then it said, these are the 5 top non-for-profits in Brazil. And then I'm like, well, why can't we do that there? Why can't we do it here in Toronto? I went up to Gringo and I said, listen, Gringo, this is what I want to do. Gringo said, yep. He didn't ask me any questions. He didn't say, okay, he didn't charge me for any mat space. All I said was, can I, if I sponsor 3 of your students to go to Worlds, right, or any tournaments that they want, right, in exchange for them teaching these kids, right, I explained that they would be at-risk youth, would you be up for it, right? He goes, yeah. Gave me two hours a week, once on a Friday, once on a Saturday, and we started from there, right? And like it's been growing ever since. We hit a little hiccup during the pandemic, but we're still hanging on, right? So that's essentially the story of Project X, guys.
No, I think that's an amazing story. And it's like, obviously we have a little bit of a hiccup right now because of the pandemic, but it's still, so like you at your, like, before everything went down, like where kind of like, how many students did you have registered? Like how many individuals are involved in the program now?
So when we started with 2 students, right? And I remember we had 2 students, but I think that's like any jiu-jitsu school, right? You open up a jiu-jitsu school,
and you build.
Yeah, and then you grow.
You open your doors and there's like just floodgates of people coming. No, there's not.
Exactly, right? But the thing is I think that we understand the process because of jiu-jitsu. We understand that, look, you know what? Everything's not going to happen. Everything's not going to transform in one day, right? What's going to happen is it's going to take time. So we kept plugging away. I went to schools, and I started doing speeches, right? So it helped me. I would go around and I would share my story, and this is my story. I would go around. I wouldn't rehearse because I wanted to be authentic. I wanted to let them know that, look, you know what? If I can do it, you can do it. I'm sure that there's many people that were in my situation that were being bullied every day, right? That were feeling trapped, right? In this certain lifestyle. So we went and we started off as a free program. And what happened was no one was coming. Then I attended this conference, and the lady who was speaking, well, one of the guest speakers, she was saying that she wanted to start up a non-for-profit to give away lessons for coding for women. And she got into this discussion with the person who was going to give the course, right? And the person goes, we're going to give it for free. And she was adamant that she was going to charge. And then her reasoning behind it was that if you give away something for free, no one sees value in it. Mm-hmm. So then I'm like, you know what? Let's just charge $10, right? We charge $10. We'll get these donated. We'll get belts donated. $10. My numbers pumped up, right? I think we were at the North York location. We had like probably 20 to 25 at like our peak there. From there, we started working with a group at Tropicana. We opened up at a church in Maple, and just before this pandemic hit, we were in Oshawa. So we were in 4 different locations.
Excellent. It's amazing when you just like a simple fee of like $10, and now it's like, okay, there's value built into that program, and now it's like, okay, people want to involve. And then when it was free, it's just like people just didn't see that value that they wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. I was charging one person $1, right? Because the thing is that if that's their final dollar, right? Because it's usually the parents who are paying, right?
Yeah.
When it's free, the parents don't care if they go or not. But if that's their last dollar, right, they're gonna make sure that the kid goes.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I'm telling you, like, I know, for example, when I was a kid, we would go to food banks. My mom would always make me go to my dad on payday and go get money. I mean, I dumpster dived, bro. Like, not dumpster dive. The Goodwill boxes, right? Yep. I remember them putting me there, right? And even though at the time I looked at it as a negative experience, I'm grateful for everything I have gone through, right? And that's what jiu-jitsu has done for me, because when we start off as white belts, we're like,
we're dumpster diving.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I don't know if you've ever wanted to quit, but like, I mean, there was one time I was going so hard, I hurt somebody, and the guy got upset at me, and I remember, man, I was gonna quit that day, right? But my instructor, he saw the like anguish on my face, and he said, what's wrong, right? And I go, look, man, because it was a passing guard drill, pass the guard. And I was like, so I need to pass this guard. And you know how hard a wipeout goes. And I hit him in the face, and the guy got really, really upset. And then the guy goes, look, you know what? When you start off, right, all you have to do is, if you don't want to go hard, right, you tell the other person, don't go hard, right? We're going to get hurt. It's jiu-jitsu. But in life, that's the same thing. If you want to go hard, right, then you're going to surround yourself with people that are going hard. If you don't want to go hard in life and bring yourself to another level, then keep away from the people that are trying to move up. It's simple, right?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. It's just like, and again, it's communication with the people that you're training with and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's fantastic and I think everybody's always had that situation where they're like, I'm going to quit because of whether it's time, money, dedication towards a martial art or whatever it is, right? So Michael almost quit 2 years ago until I pulled him out of the depths. So,
he did. He pulled me right. He pulled me right out of the dumpster of life.
Good.
He pulled me right. He pulled me out by the ankles. He's like, "No, you're not quitting. Get your ass into here and start teaching. You need to give back." I was like Michael Clark Duncan in the Green Mile. You have a gift. You must teach. You must teach. What are you doing? You're throwing your life away. I was like, no, I'm done. I'm all washed up. Let me go. And wallow in my self-pity.
But we have the friends like that here, right? In jiu-jitsu jiu-jitsu is one of like the greatest communities out there. Like, I mean, there's people that genuinely care about you, right? I used to play soccer. I used to play soccer. Every time after we had a soccer game, all we would do is go drink and get drunk, right? Over here, maybe we go for sushi, but we care. We genuinely care. If somebody's, going through a tough time, we're there for each other, right? And this is like, I'm sure there's other communities like that, but like, this is something that I am so proud that my kids are growing up around, because I never had the opportunity, right? Like, imagine if you were going through a difficult time in another sector, right? You might not have somebody that cared as much as for you as Aaron does, right? You know what I mean?
Oh, Aaron cares for me.
Of course.
One thing. Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
No, go.
One thing I wanted to ask you is, for yourself and maybe like some of the students that you've had at Project X Guard, what makes martial arts or jiu-jitsu so powerful in making those changes for yourself? Was it like having like a social community? Like what was it that kind of like, you know what, this is it. This is what I need to do with my life. I need to, stop doing what I'm doing. And I need to make some changes. Like, what was that in like jiu-jitsu or martial arts for you and other people?
So the biggest lesson that I have learned, right, is number one is that because I was unafraid to try something new, I found my passion, right? Some people are, and I tell this to every time I go speak to a school, and I talk to the kids and I say, look, you know what? For me, if you leave here doing jiu-jitsu, or if you don't ever do jiu-jitsu again, I don't really care. What I really care about is that you go and try something new, right? Because if I didn't try anything new and I was afraid to try anything new, I would never have discovered Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And I would be a totally different person right now, right? And then from Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, what I learned, the biggest lesson I took away from Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was that you cannot control the situation, right? But that's life. I can't control anybody else. So if I'm driving along, somebody cuts me off, right? I can't control that he's an idiot. I can't control that my wife is mad at me for not taking out the garbage, right? I can't control that my boss is going to be, mean to me because he had some problems at home.
Aaron's mean to me all the time.
I'm not anymore.
Aaron, you got to be nicer to him, okay? So, but what I learned, right? And this is jiu-jitsu, is that you can only control your response. So I'll give you an example. When you start off, right, at the beginning and somebody's mounted you, right? If you start fighting back and you start going crazy, you're giving up, first of all, you're gonna run out of breath. Then you're gonna want to tap out. Or if you start flailing your arms, what you're going to do is you're going to get, arm barred, right? So what I learned that in life, right, just like in jiu-jitsu, is what we have to learn is we have to learn new techniques to control our response. So if in life, I suffered deeply from depression. I had anxiety attacks, right? Even at jiu-jitsu. I had major stress. But what I learned are new techniques to control my response, right? I cannot control that I have anxiety or major stress. I can't control that I might go through bouts of depression, but I can see them coming on now, and I can feel it exactly like when I'm learning new techniques and I'm learning new escapes for those techniques that are going to come my way, right? Then I can be proactive, right? And what I've learned is, the techniques to help me get through life are similar of the techniques that I use in jiu-jitsu, right? If somebody's mounted me and I can't breathe, I take a second, I start thinking, and I slow my breath down. Somebody's choking me out, right? Like I'm very hard to choke. Really, it's because I have no neck, but that's what they all say, right? But the thing is you have to relax in tough, difficult situations in life, just like in jiu-jitsu, is you have to relax. You have to be focused on the moment, and then you can start to move forward.
What are some of and again, you don't have to mention any names or anything like that, but what's some really good success stories that you've had come out of the program?
So I have one student that he has learning disabilities, right? And I'm not sure what he's classified with, right? But one day his mom came to me and was very just happy, right? Because she was talking about the notice that the principal and the teachers noticed how he had changed, right? That he used to be hyperactive, he used to get in trouble a lot, and listening to her speak on how, because obviously as a parent with a child with learning disabilities, right, which what we call when we're talking to parents, right, we call them invisible disabilities. We have a program called Invisible Ninjas because you can't, a person could appear totally normal. You don't know, and I'm not saying we have to choose our words, right, but that somebody might have autism, somebody might have ADHD, right?
They might
and you
have
don't know.
Exactly. No, 100%.
And from appearance, you can't always tell, right? And so he had obviously struggled. Right? And she was so. Oh, I had asked her if she'd be willing to share her story for us, right? We were going to do some videos and everything, and then you could just see her face light up, right? And we had other kids that we would take them to Buffalo, to that the Buffalo Classic. I had one weekend that there was an event going downtown. I don't know if you know who Gary V is. He was the keynote speaker,
Gary
right?
Vaynerchuk,
And I said, listen, this isn't about jiu-jitsu. My program is not about jiu-jitsu, right? It's about life, right? Mm-hmm. It's about teaching life skills. So I took two of my students, right, and with my older son, and we headed down there for the weekend to learn new life skills, right? And they came away from it empowered. All I want to do is let them see the possibilities of life. And that like, you know, I spend more money than I bring in. You know, $10 a month is really nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I've had the fortune to have people that have had, you know, they have felt what I'm trying to put out there, and they have given me money. Like, I had people give me $1,000, $300 here and there, right? But for the most part, me and my wife, we're putting money towards this program. We don't have huge corporate sponsors. I didn't think that we were ready yet to go and ask for huge amounts of money from corporate sponsors because of the fact that we had like a small amount of people, right? But the thing is look, I look at it like, man, this is money well spent, right? You know, I would spend, you know, $1,000 in a night, you know, at a bar, right? Taking kids for a weekend to Buffalo with my family and letting them and seeing the joy in their face, right? You know, from jiu-jitsu, from competing, because nothing prepares you for life as competition does, right? Nothing will compete you. Nothing will get you ready as a competition. And I don't care if they win or lose. For me, like, even with my own children, I really don't care if they win or lose. What I care about is that they step up, walk onto that mat, and give the best that they can, do the best that they can.
I think this is definitely something I think that you could take to the next level and get some big corporate sponsors. Like maybe not this podcast because we only have like 10 people listening to it. But
it's okay.
But we need. I think definitely this is something that you can take to the next level. I think we should. Aaron, what do you think? Can you sponsor the podcast with that upper management money that you're making?
Yeah, of course. No, but no, and that's the thing. It's definitely something where, like, platforms like this where it's word of mouth and it's just something constantly been talked about, and that's why, like, I was talking to Mike about it, and I was like, yeah, like, we want to figure out how we can be a little bit more involved with it as well, right? Because especially when we're trying to create, again, a bigger community in general, but how do we start giving back to everybody else too? And I think especially the program that you're doing is amazing. And I was like, that's the first thing I asked Mike is, like, we need to find out how we can be a little bit more involved. And even if it's just us delivering the message for you more often, we're more than happy to do that. Exactly.
That'd be amazing.
100%. So I'm totally down with that. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes right now. The biggest thing is, like, when you look at, like, obviously a post-COVID world, obviously we have kind of limitations right now. So, like, how are you keeping, like, your students engaged and, like, or, like, you know, still keeping them up to speed or teaching them new life skills? Like, what's been happening over the time?
So through COVID, we were doing Zoom classes, right? We had essentially stopped for a bit. We weren't doing anything. We were kind of in a wait and see, right? And then I think it was more a little bit of fear on my part. I had gone through depression through COVID, honestly, right? You know,
I think everybody did.
Yeah, and I was I actually think I had COVID early on. Like, I had stopped training, and it took me a while to get back to normal. It just drains you, right? And what happened was, you know, I was in, like, this wait and see what's gonna happen, waiting for everybody, and then I started, let's do a Zoom class, right? And we started again with 2, right? You know, again with 2. So we went from, actually, no, that's a lie. So we had gone, and we had did with our group in Oshawa, we were having about, like, between 5 to 10 people, right, in total.
Okay. But
But the numbers had gone down to 2 in the recent times, right? But we had come back up to around 6. So what we're doing, because we have to think about social distancing and social circles, we are saying what we're going to do is a parent and kid class, right? So that way, you know, there's no really high risk of passing on if somebody has COVID, and they're able to consistently train, right? If you have some, you know, the kids are always going to get sick. And so what we're going to do is, again, I went back to Gringo and I asked him if I can do this, right? Following all the safety protocols that we have to do, you know, we're gonna start up one day a week, right? So I think I have looked at this COVID, you know, at first it was really like a bad thing, and I'm seeing the positivities that have come out of this, right? Because we, you know, it's we have to learn how to adapt, right? That's the thing is if we don't learn how to adapt as a species or as a person, we just wither away. There are so many people that are unable to you know, to be able to really what's it called, you know, kind of survive on a daily basis because of the mental state that they're in through COVID. So we as an organization, we are still reaching out to the parents, and we're still talking to, like, you know, this is why I'm here, right? Because look, you know, we're not dead, right? And we're not going anywhere, right? Yeah. Every time I meet a parent, I'll walk down the street and I'll see a kid having, you know, like, you know, he might be just misbehaving, and I'll talk to the parent and I'll give them a card, right? Because this is my life, right? I want to change people's lives, right? So, you know, I think that it's going to be a while before things get back to really normal, right? And I think that if we can just keep it going through the Zoom classes and through a parent and child class, then at least we're going to be able to survive through this, right? It's jiu-jitsu, man. Like, you know what? We're getting choked out right now. All we have to do right now is survive, right? Make it through the round. And as soon as COVID's over, then we're gonna look at us
back in the game.
Exactly.
I think you even said it earlier. It's not about, like, you know, life can throw all sorts of different things at you, and life's thrown a lot at you. It's not about what life throws at you. It's about, you know, how you react to it and how you're going to adapt to it. And I think you're doing an excellent job with the program during COVID as well.
Exactly. So I wanted to tell you about, like, so I you know, if you guys do share, right? I was talking about my invisible ninjas, right? So my invisible ninjas, what I want to accomplish from there is I want to have parents that you know, have kids that are going through, you know, depression, stress, anxiety, right? Also have the ADHD, autism, right? Kids that have, you know, a mental disability, right? That need somewhere to release, right? The reason we started the parent and kid class was because we had worked with a group that was it's called High Five in Markham, and they were doing soccer with the kids, and it was for kids with autism. And the thing is some of the kids with autism, they're runners, right? They like to run, they're free spirits, right? So if we had one instructor, it would kind of disrupt the class. So we said, okay, look, because it's very hard to get people to volunteer, and that's the honest truth, right? It's, you know, so we work in two ways in terms of our instructors. They're either volunteers, or every time they teach a class, they get a credit that goes towards us sponsoring them to go to a tournament. So if they teach 3 classes, they want to go to, like, you know, like Ascension, you know, they want to sign up for Ascension, they sign up, and then we'll just reimburse them, right? We want to give them some motivation to come in, right? But we also have people that say, hey, I don't want anything, and we'll volunteer. But so I said, okay, you know, if we do a parent and child class, then if that kid takes off, right, the parent knows that child best, and they can deal with it, and our class can continue. So what I'm asking is anybody listening to this podcast, right? If you have a child, that has any of these disabilities, right? Contact me, right? On Facebook or Project XGuard, Instagram, Project XGuard, or Raul Chaves, right? You can, I'm sure you'll get my information. You can include it on the bio, right?
Yeah,
Of your
100%.
podcast, right? Yeah. So and then there's also the other. I'm looking to work with kids with physical disabilities as well, right? Kids that are in wheelchairs, right? You've seen those tournaments, man. Those guys are amazing.
The
right?
para jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, para jiu-jitsu,
para athletes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are inspiring, right? There's nothing that you cannot do. No matter what kind of disability you have, there is nothing you cannot do. All you have to do is you have to adapt to it, change it up for yourself, right? And that's what I want to see. I want to teach these kids, right? Because they were unable to walk, right? Because they're in a wheelchair. But I wasn't off much better than they were, right? I had a huge disability. Sometimes your brain shutting down and saying that I can't do this is just as bad as that, right? And people don't understand that, right? People don't understand, like, when somebody goes through a depression and they're suicidal or they're getting bullied every day, and it's like, you can't function, right? You need an outlet. You need to be taught that you have to have self-confidence, right? And that's all I want these kids to learn. Like, if they're in a wheelchair and they're getting bullied, if they're missing an arm, missing a leg, or if they're hearing impaired, right, and they're being bullied, like I said, you cannot control your environment. You can't control that they're going to bully you. All you can control is your response. But the thing is, if you notice, kids that do jiu-jitsu or people that do jiu-jitsu, they don't fight. You know that, right? They don't fight. They have so much confidence that they don't need to fight, right? So that's what I want these kids to learn, right? That you have so much confidence that you're going to be able to get out of any situation just by using your mouth, right? Because you know how to fight. It's weird. You're learning how to fight, so you don't never have to fight.
So, and I think that's the biggest thing you touched on, right? Where we look at like education through mental health and everything else, because that's, especially in a COVID world, like that's the biggest thing that was affecting everybody. It's all mental health, and they weren't able to express anything through an outlet because they were locked in their house. And maybe that's not the best situation for an individual, depending on what their situation is. And you got it all taken away all of a sudden in an instant. So I think it's great that you've addressed it, but then you're also kind of like, okay, what are the next steps and how do we get more people involved? I think that's smart.
Yep. Thank you.
One thing sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
No, go.
Wanted to ask you as well. So going back, like looking back on everything you've done, everything you've accomplished, what advice would you give yourself, like back when you were like a teenager and you were like going through all these hard times? Like if you jumped in the DeLorean, went back in time, you could talk to yourself as a teenager.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you would tell yourself back then, or somebody who's going through a lot of these things right now, who may be listening to this podcast, or what advice would you give them?
So the Marty McSanchez in me would say, right? would say, like,
the Spanish Michael J. Fox is jumping back
exactly
into the DeLorean.
So what I would see, that's the thing is you know what, it's I was listening to this podcast, right? Because everything that happened to me has made me want to learn, made me want to read, I wouldn't change a thing for me, right? Like, I wouldn't, because all these difficult situations are what makes me who I am today, right? We can't, like I said, we can't control that our parents, right? Because a kid has no control how their parents were parented, right? They're all we are doing is is bringing everybody into the cycle, right? And I was so scared. I was so scared that my kids were going to be in that same cycle, right? And because of my fears, I kept them in that cycle until I learned another way. So for me, I wouldn't change another thing. But what I'm trying to do is, by going out and speaking, I'm trying to allow the kids to understand that there is another way, right? That, look, we don't have to let anybody else control our lives, right? But the thing is that you are only going to try to change something if you find a passion. You know, if something is worth fighting for, right? So, you know, he who knows his why can overcome anyhow, right? You know that quote, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once that, this is what my biggest focus on is I'm trying to hopefully introduce kids to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu so that this might be their passion, right? However, if it's not their passion, the skills that they're going to learn through Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, right? Like, you know, mental toughness, you know, like good physical, you know, a good physical regimen, you know, good social circles, surrounding yourself with positive people, right? This is what I want to teach them. But when I'm talking to parents about jiu-jitsu, this is the way I put it. I say to them, I go and take your kids, put them in everything and anything that they can. Because how would you know? Because social stereotypes, right? I was born in 1975, right? You know, no boy would really be looked, he would be frowned upon if he did ballet. But I say today, right? How would your son know if he loves ballet if he's never been taken to the ballet or did a ballet class, right? Nothing wrong with doing ballet, right? But introduce him to anything and everything, him or her, right? You know, my daughter is like an amazing wrestler, right? I remember growing up, I was 10 years old playing soccer, and they brought a girl onto the other team, and everybody laughed at her, right? You know, so because of all the fears that the people had, like, you know, it's like, oh, girls can't do this, girls can't do that, and I have none of those fears, right? I want to build my kids up, but I also want to build the kids up from Project X Guard, right? Mm-hmm. You know, so I say expose yourself, right? As a kid coming into my program, any parent listening to this, again, for me, it's not about jiu-jitsu, it's about life, right? So if they would come to my program and contact me, that's amazing. But you know what? Just let them try something. Let them try anything, because they're you know, if you were a hockey parent, then you're going to put your kid into hockey, right? And you know, and that's the way it's been for generations. But they might hate hockey, right? And they might love jiu-jitsu, and they might love soccer. Let your kids be who they want to be. Let them find their own path, right?
No, I think that's fantastic. And it is like I said before, it's just how do we get it bigger, right? How do you get into more spots, especially because right now you're kind of like in the east end of Toronto, and how do you start getting a little further west or north or even across Ontario, right? So it's like Mike said, right? Like this project X Guard can be so explosive, especially in a post-COVID world. And I think it's just, we're waiting for that timer to end, and then you're going to see like some amazing things happen. I can feel it.
The way we get it to other parts is that, you know, if there's an instructor out there, if there's an owner of a gym that is willing to give up free mat time, right? Willing, you know, I offer the same thing, you know, that if you have a student that you maybe needs help going to tournaments, right? This is a perfect way for them to earn some money to go to tournaments. They would teach, and in turn for teaching, we'll sponsor them, right? Mm-hmm. I have a whole whack of gis here. I'm going to show you. Just picked up yesterday, right? You see that?
Nice.
Donated, right? I have in my bedroom, like in closets, right? These are what people do. People want to support, right? So all I need is some kids to fill them, right? And so I talked to a lot of people. We were talking with somebody in Ottawa, and we were going to do it in Ottawa. I was actually talking to someone in Ecuador, right? We were going to do it in Ecuador, right? And then this hit. So we're prepared. We're prepared. As soon as somebody, says, "Hey, let's do it here," let's talk. I'm all open. Like, I'll make it happen. Like, you say, you give me the location and somebody to teach, I'll take care of the rest.
I love it. Love it.
Excellent. What is so post-COVID? What are the next steps for Project XGuard and for yourself?
So right now, our immediate next step, right, is really getting these locations fully active again, right? So the 3 locations, I think we might have lost the Tropicana. Tropicana it's a community center for Caribbean youth, right? We lost our contact there, so we really don't know what's happening there, but that's okay. But our next we have there's a called Durham Alternative Secondary School, right, in Oshawa, and that's where we're going to next, right? We're in discussions of getting mats for them and doing them, because those are like kids that have not functioned well in high school, and they're basically on their own terms, their own schedule, right? But I've gone in there and I've done speeches, and they're really they're ready to work with us, right? So I just like I said, man, like we were focusing on Oshawa. I was getting instructors, and we were growing, and we're talking to sponsors, right? So there's nothing, like I said, I can't control the situation that just happened, right? But going forward, it's I think that I have learned a lot of new skills during this little break that I can apply, right? One of the skills that I learned, and I have never done, I'm not really a computer person, but because I've had the opportunity to learn, I'm taking this digital marketing course, right? And it just all worked out. It's one of the guys that teaches through Pac Hooligan. When Pac Hooligan goes and talks to martial arts schools, right? Mm-hmm. It's one of the guys who teaches for him. And it all just came back in a circle, and we met. It was meant to be. And I'm learning that, so I can learn how to recruit, or advertise through a thing called ClickFunnels, and through like Facebook marketing and social media. So because the way we started, I was knocking on doors, right? I was knocking on doors and say hi, And
now you're putting the internet marketing, putting internet marketing, Instagram, Facebook advertising to use. That tracks our every move now, apparently.
Exactly, right. So that's the next step. I need to knock on their door through their Facebook, right?
Yeah. It's okay. No more boots on the ground. No, that's excellent. Listen, Raul, I want to thank you very much for coming on the podcast today, especially sharing the whole project, the whole program, especially in your story on how you kind of developed it and how it's going to grow. And I'm super excited to see where it goes. And again, we want to, like I said, Mike and I want to help you out every way we can. So it's just like getting the word out there, and now that you gave us more info, we can definitely do that for you. So
cool. Thank you. I totally appreciate this. I'm here with the intention of giving back, right? Jiu-jitsu has given me so much, right? More than money can ever give me, right? And I want to give it back to kids. So like I said, if there's any school owner out there that has been thinking about it, the way I say is, we're developing a long-term relationship. So the kids that are going to be doing it in your school now, right? Where are they going to want to train once they're 18, 19, right? So you're investing in the future. You're not going to have to pay for advertising, right? So that if they have a question, well, what do I get out of it? You're going to get future students. You don't even have to invest a penny. So that's how I put it to them.
No, I really I knew about the program, but like I'm glad that we talked tonight and went over like a kind of like a deep dive about what you do. I want to thank you for also coming on and also being very candid like with your story and a lot of things that you shared tonight. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off for the day? Anything you want to thank? Anything you want to shout out?
Any sponsors, maybe like Project X-Guard, like.
No, I really just want to thank Gringo, right? Because without Gringo's Academy, none of this would be possible, right? Gringo has totally changed my life. Being part of him. Of his team and the way that he leads everyone else has made this possible, not for me, but for the kids in the program. So that's who I want to give all my thanks to. And I want to thank really, the jiu-jitsu community, right? Because they are the best community. I love going to tournaments. I love talking to people. I love volunteering. You know that when you're reffing and I'm volunteering, you know how we have great conversations, right? This is it's all a learning experience, and I have not had so many friends made, right? True friends. I've never made so many friends that like I have made in through jiu-jitsu tournaments, right? So I want to thank those people, like every single person that I've come across. Like, you have totally impacted my life in a positive way, even if you choke me out at a tournament.
Hopefully we get back to doing some tournaments soon.
Oh man, I hope so. So thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you again so much. Really appreciate it. All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Raul. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
CanadianProtein.com, promo code CHOKE, 10% off. Project X-Guard.
Project X-Guard. There we go.
Later.